Hey everyone, it's Miss Garza, and in case you didn't already know that, I'm a seventh grade English teacher. And for a couple minutes, I want to talk to you about Hispanic Heritage Month and a couple books that I think go perfect for this month. Hispanic Heritage Month is always every year from September 15th to October 15th, and it celebrates exactly what it sounds like, Hispanic Heritage Month or Hispanic Heritage. And so, as a Mexican American, I feel like this month is super important, not just to someone who is culturally Hispanic, but to other people who have maybe recently immigrated or who have cultural ties or are just curious about the culture in general. So I want to dig in and get started on talking about some books. The first book I want to talk to you about is Esperanza Rising. I have it here with me. I think it is an absolutely divine book. I love this book. It is a must have for any classroom library. Esperanza Rising is the story of a young girl who's thrown into a new life after a series of events leaves her homeless. So she actually originates from Mexico, but the majority of the book takes place in California. So that's a little bit of a spoiler, but she does have to individually immigrate to America with her family. And she grows up wealthy, but when she immigrates to America at this time, because it's historical fiction, it's the 1930s, she's really looked down upon by the white Americans, for lack of a better term, and by the upper class. And she soon learns what it means to be a hard worker and to be kind and to be humble, and most of all, what it means to be herself. And I feel like this is just such a fantastic book for anyone who is just even an inkling bit curious about perhaps the 1930s, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl era, migrant workers, Hispanic culture, Mexican American culture. It is a fantastic read. It is just over 200 pages long. It literally sits right at, let me find it, I think it's like 260, so maybe a little more, right under 300 pages really, if you think about it. Yeah, it ends at 262. In the back of my copy, it has like an interview and an article from the author herself, which is great. It is full of the most fantastic diction. It has some amazing word choices here, and it's really great as a vocab tool. But if you're not interested in that, you're just interested in the book, it's really great. At the beginning of the chapters, it always starts with something like Los higos, which are figs. I did not know that. I don't speak Spanish, but at the beginning of every chapter, it has like some kind of crop, and it plays like a kind of thematic, a continuous thematic appearance throughout the book. Crops and agriculture are very heavily rooted in this book, as you can tell, with the crops and agriculture down at the bottom of the screen and down to the bottom of the book. It is a Pura Belpré Award winner. It is a fantastic read. It's, like I said, not very long, and it's definitely, most certainly worth reading. I hope you pick it up. Okay, let's get started on the next book. The next book is Confetti Girl by Diana Lopez. I am going to get rid of my camera so that you guys can see the screen. So Confetti Girl by Diana Lopez is about two Mexican-American young adults. They're young teenage girls, Vanessa and Lena. Lena is obsessed with socks, boys, and sports. Vanessa is Lena's best friend. And both girls are struggling through the year with their parents and with each other, and of course with boys. This is a really great read for middle school Lexile level. Like, so if you're in middle school, like 5th to 8th grade, maybe even 9th grade. It is realistic fiction. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, probably because of the maturity of the character Lena. She is not exactly the most mature girl in the world. She's a little jelly. She's got a little bit of jealousy problems. She's got some problems with keeping her mouth shut when she shouldn't be talking. She talks back to her teachers, and she is actually rather funny. I just think, maybe she's a little immature, so I don't know if maybe that's the right message to be sending about Mexican Americans. Um, on the other hand, the book does have these fantastic little didos, which are like sayings at the beginning of every chapter, and I'll show you that right now. If you look like at the beginning of the chapter, it will have like a phrase in English and in Spanish, and it's like a little wise word kind of saying, and it's just every chapter has one. It's kind of great that way. It does have a lot of culturalisms into it, especially about Mexican American culture. But specifically, I think it really discusses what it's like to be Mexican American rather than just Mexican or just American, because this girl is Mexican American and she's from Texas. Yay, Texas! So it is set in Texas. It's really great. It does have some Texas geography in it, which I just like loved reading. I thought that was great. So this is another really good read. If you have already read Esperanza Rising, this is the next book that you should pick up if you liked it, because this one and this one, they just go perfect together. They're like right next to each other. They're great. This one obviously is historical fiction. This one's realistic fiction. And the same reading level. So if you read one, you can read the other. No problems. The next one is the Tequila Worm, and I'm sure a couple of you guys are thinking, what is Ms. Garza having us read? So let me tell you a little about the Tequila Worm. The Tequila Worm is about this girl. Her name is Sophia, and she isn't like other girls in her neighborhood. She's smart and witty and determined and creative, and she is also very family oriented. She loves her family. She loves her father and her mother and her little sister Lucy. However, Sophia's biggest dream is to go outside of the world that she already knows, and she wants to discover like other things. And there's even this fantastic quote, if I can find it, that talks about it. And she talks about it with her cousin and how she wants to be more than what's expected of her. And I think that's just a really great message. And it's pretty close to the beginning of the book, so I'll read it really briefly now. She's telling her cousin Berta that what she wants to be when she grows up, and she says, "I want to go to college, make money, and buy a house for Papa and Mama, and become a lawyer." A lawyer? Women aren't lawyers, Sophia, says cousin Berta, and especially not Mexican American women. We're wives, mothers, and if we're lucky, teachers or nurses. But you can try marrying a lawyer if you only start dressing better. So, I mean, I know that sounds really terrible that her cousin Bertha is saying that, as a Mexican American woman, that she cannot become anything but a wife or a mother or a teacher, or even a nurse. She could maybe start by marrying a lawyer. But the truth is that you realize that what the author is really getting at is that women can, in fact, become lawyers and nurses and doctors and presidents and all those amazing things. And I think that this book really truly aims to represent the Mexican American lifestyle in the most positive light. And I'm sure you're wondering, what's with the tequila worm? Well, it tells you in the beginning of the book that the tequila worm, if you eat one, it is a cure for homesickness. And if that doesn't give you a little bit of clues as to what happens in the book, you need to work on your inferencing skills. But this is a fantastic read. It's really great. It's full of English and Spanish, and it does make it very clear. You don't have to know Spanish to know what it's talking about, but it does have a bunch of culturalisms, some that I didn't even know. And it's set in Texas again. Yes, this one is set in McAllen, Texas, so it's a little bit more country. They're from the Valley, so they're a little different. And she ends up, having big dreams and trying to accomplish those while still honoring her culture and her heritage. And I think that's just such a fantastic thing for a book to do. I gave this book a 4.5. I would have given it a 5, except for the fact that perhaps it skips over some things. It feels a lot like she was trying to cram so much into this little itty bitty book that she just nipped it off and she just like went scene to scene. Not that she had a lot to write about it. It would have just been, it's a little choppy in some sections. You really got to pay attention to the change in scene. Other than that, fantastic, fantastic read. I insist that you buy this book and read it. It is an award winner, just like the last or the first one. It won the same award, the Pure Belpré Award, which is, doesn't say enough about it. It's a great read. I'm going to go ahead and get started on my last book, and that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I read this book over the summer, and ever since, I have felt like my life has changed. And if you have ever read a book that seems life-changing, this is that kind of book. I ugly cried to this book, which means a lot because it takes a lot to make me ugly cry. Aristotle, or Ari, depending on how you say it, and Dante are two boys who have no business being friends. They really are kind of different in just so many ways. Like, Dante is kind of quiet, and Ari's really outgoing, and one is really shy, one's really confident. They're almost polar opposites. They are both Mexican American, which is why I put this in this section. They're Mexican American. It does speak about Mexican American issues, but this book tackles so many issues that it's actually won a ton of awards, and I'll go over that in a minute. But it basically, Aristotle and Dante, they end up becoming friends, and they're the kind of friends that even the universe could pull apart. They struggle with things. There are accidents, there's problems, there's relationships, there's issues, there's secrets. Oh my gosh, this book is full of secrets. It's actually told from the point of view of Dante for the entire book, and he struggles with his family secrets, and so that is really intriguing to find out what the family secret is. I really liked that part of the book. And other than that, I will say that this book does have mature content. So if you are not in high school and you are or close to graduating or even an adult, I would recommend that you make sure that this is okay for you to read. I don't want anyone going home and say, "Hey mom, Miss Garza said I could read this book even though it says swear words and it talks about reproducing and sexuality and mental disorders." It does have mature content, so I will be very clear about that. It is mature content. I would not hand this to a middle schooler because it's mature content. So you must be mature to talk about it. It does have questions of sexuality, and if that is not something that you like, then I do not recommend this book. This book, if you can tell, won the Stonewall Award, which I think makes it even that much greater. There are people that would disagree with me. I don't care. I gave this book a 5, not just because it made me ugly cry, but because I could tell that this writing wasn't just about the issues that the author was trying to tackle or just about being Mexican American. It was so much about expressing oneself in a way that is not only true or honest, but also poetic. And this book is just full of those poetic moments. It's very beautifully written. It's almost like you could tell that the author made this book a labor of love, and I appreciate that so much. So, if you are interested, I hope that you read it. Like I said, it's won a bunch of awards. It's won an honor award, the Stonewall Award, the Purabelle Ray Award, and then another one, the Lambda Literary Award. So it is very awarded. It's a fantastic read. It is realistic fiction. I don't think it would really count as historical fiction. It does take place in what I'm assuming is right around after the Vietnam War. I wouldn't consider that historical fiction. Some people would. But it is, again, a fantastic read. So I hope this has been really helpful. And if you have any other questions or you'd like to know more about the books that I'm reading or the books that I have read or anything that I recommend, you can always find that at my website. And that is at www.msgarzas, so Miss Garza's, ELA.weebly.com. And remember, reading inspires. Bye, guys. Have a good night.